Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Deaths, which typically lag behind cases and hospitalizations, have now started to rise. When I first started at CDC about 2 months ago, I made a promise to you. I would tell you the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear. Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
Rachel Walensky, CDC director, doctor. Pending doom. I have nothing but impending doom for you little souls. It's never anything where it's like, hey, you know what? We need to be cautious. We need to be aware. We need to make sure we don't see these spikes, But it's always impending doom. I'm going to go off script here. I think the world's coming to an end. I'm going to go off script here. I think everything's pretty much over. I'm going to go off script here. It's never anything other than that. It is frustrating. And you wonder why people are frustrated. You wonder why. You don't have to wonder. You just have to look. Look, we can be cautious and we can come out of this bizarre last year plus that we've been in with, a little trepidation, right? I'm taking a step forward. Let's see what's going on. All right. For some people, other people are going to run straight out there. They don't care. But it's impending doom it gets old, man. It does. It gets old. It gets old. Well, there are other cases where places are starting to see definitely things started to ratchet up. Yeah, in some places are. And part of the reason is pretty simple. Places that have been locked down don't have the infection rate that a lot of other places. Texas has a huge infection rate for the last year because people have been allowed to kind of go about their business normally, so the case is rather high. Arizona's kind of the same way. So is Texas. Right? So what you have is already a certain amount of naturally built-in immunity to something because so many people have already been infected. You couple that with the fact that people are getting shots, vaccinations, if you will, in some areas. Guess what? You're going to find that the infection rate isn't going to be as bad. In other areas where they fought hard to keep the infection rate low, they're looking around and their governor's like, oh, God, we got to do something because these other states are starting to open up. And now we're talking about recalls and we're talking about all of these things. And I'm running for re-election and I don't want to lose. I can't lose. I got nothing else going on. So what ends up happening? You start to open up. Well, you don't have the infection rate. Good for you in some ways, but bad because a lot of people are just going about their normal business. So they're going to be infected. You're going to see spikes in areas because places just don't have that naturally built-in immunity of being completely exposed. I'm in Arizona. We were the worst, not in the country, but in the world on several occasions. When you looked at per capita, there was nobody else on the planet worse than we were. But because of that, a certain amount of people inside of the state have already been exposed and or have had this, have either T-cell immunity, have actual immunity, or have been vaccinated, or all of the above. Guess what? You're going to find that it's going to spread not very fast here. Other places where you haven't had that much of the population that's been exposed, you've been far more clamped down, returning to normal because everybody's seeing all these other states doing it. You're going to have more people that are going to be exposed and or get it. It's that simple. It's pretty much that's the easiest thing that you can explain it to. But the doom, man, it gets old. I'm sorry, man, it gets old. It gets old.
I'm pleased to announce that at least 90% of all adults in this country will be eligible to be vaccinated by April the 19th.
That's great. That's great. That's good. So a couple weeks away, everybody will be eligible, essentially. That's an adult. Everybody will be eligible. Some states are already there. They've just opened up the floodgates and said, all right, you're over the age of 16 or 18, depending on, come and get it if you want it. Come and get it if you want it. Here you go.
You know, we will administer more shots in March than any country on earth. But even so, we have to give more shots in April than we did in March. Because we're in the life and death race with the virus that is spreading quickly, with cases rising again, new variants are spreading, and sadly, some of the reckless behavior we've seen on television over the past few weeks means that more new cases are to come in the weeks ahead.
Of course. It's the fourth wave. It is. You're going to have this, right? Like we talked about it yesterday. It was Dr. Jha that said, "Look, if you guys are looking for zero, it's just never going to happen." The minute you step out, and we get back to a normal way of going about things, you're going to have cases that are going to rise. You're going to see things change. But in places like Israel, where Israel saw a jump once things started to get back to normal, then it crashed and essentially got crushed. So, yes, as we reopen, what do you think's going to happen? Just curious. Did you think we were going to reopen and that you weren't going to see a bump? Did you think we were going to reopen and not have a jump in some cases? Of course we're going to have that. You look at hospitalization, but you also have to look state by state. Depending on what state you're in, it's going to be much different. If you've had massive exposure and you couple that with massive vaccines, you're going to have you're going to see less likelihood of massive reoccurrence of a wave or a new fourth wave. You're still going to see probably a little bit of a bump. On the other side of things, if you've been really locked down and now you're starting to emerge because you have no choice for your political life. You have no choice. You also have no choice because human beings are over it. You have no choice because human beings are saying, I would rather live in a world where I take a calculated risk and I may or may not get sick than sit around all the time waiting for the government to tell me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And I'm seeing other states do that. Well, that's just the way it's going to be. That's just it. I don't know what people expect. People expect everybody just to sit around forever? You know? Florida, by the way, their numbers are falling. Of course. Again, when you expose that many people to it, you're going to get, because they've had how many cases? They've had 2.5 million cases in Florida. You think about that for a second. They've had 2.5 million cases. I don't know how many people have been vaccinated, but a ton on top of that. So you're getting to that place. And remember, and as I try to explain to people, you can usually double or triple what you see as far as cases, because how many are asymptomatic, right? So a ton of people are asymptomatic. So even if that's 4 million and you got another 1.5 million or 2 million people that are vaccinated, if not more, you're getting to that point where you're starting to see that somewhat herd immunity. And we're not talking about kids. We can't talk about kids because there isn't a vaccine. It's funny because the two things that the government doesn't want to do. They want 90% vaccinated, 70% vaccinated, and they count the children towards that. Well, you can't do that. That's just ridiculous. And some states don't do that, but some states do. Secondly, they don't count the people that have been infected already and already are antibody full as towards the vaccination side. Well, that's something that you can't do either because your body's already fought it and won. Even though, yeah, you probably want to get the vaccination eventually, the reality is you still have to count towards that number. But this is where the politics comes in. But it's doom. That gets old quick. It does. I think you know it and I know it. I don't think I want to sit around all day and listen to people go, it's doom. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Second day of the Derek Chauvin case. And there's some more than powerful things that are out there. The video itself is extremely powerful. Listening to witnesses recant what went on, what happened.
As time progressed, so when I first arrived on the scene, Mr. Floyd was vocalizing his sorriness and his pain and his distress that he was going through. The more that the knee was blocked on his neck and shimmies were going on, the more you're seeing Floyd fade away and slowly fade away, and like the fish in a bag, you've seen his eyes slowly, pale out and again slowly roll to the back of his eyes.
That right there is Donald Floyd, talked about yesterday, and he's again on stand today, talking about what he saw when he was there, and talking about that, it looked like that it was a kill hold, as he called it. It was something's going on. This guy's doing something. He's putting extra into it. Every time he takes a breath or a gasp, that he seems to be kind of like, doing it harder. So I've got large snakes, and, some snakes kill with venom, right? So they bite once, they sit back, and they let the venom work, and then the animal's, incapacitated and eventually dies. For constrictor snakes, right, like the anaconda world and things of that, they grab and they wrap up. Every time that animal takes a breath, and that breath gets out of the airwaves, it squeezes a little bit harder, and does it again until eventually it chokes off the airway. That's what the witnesses are saying that they saw. They saw him every time he tried to move, every time he tried to do something, every time he took a breath or whatever. It was like he clamped down harder with his knee. On the other side, Chauvin and his defense team has a bizarre tactic on what they say was happening.
They seem to be suggesting that Derek Chauvin may have been distracted at the time that he had his knee on George Floyd. And I think that's a tough legal argument to make, that somehow something might have gone wrong because he was distracted. George Floyd might have been killed because he was distracted.
Now, I understand if you listen to cops will tell you some of the things that go on in a situation like this, where you've got a crowd starting that, to gather around, is you're trying to, whatever's going on, you've got the other police who are trying to deal with the crowd as a just-in-case scenario. But the thought process that was going down, and that, that people were he was so distracted that he kneeled there for 9+ minutes, is that's your case? Oh, man, I'll tell you what. The world's watching. People say, with Rodney King, a bit of the world watched, but not much. I lived at England in the time, and back and forth between the two. With the riots they watched. OJ a little bit. OJ was a huge star here, and he was more of a TV star and stuff, in Europe from the airplane movies and things like that, but not really. This is different because of the internet, because of all of the things that are going on. This is a much different thing. This is a huge story worldwide. George Floyd is, there are murals of him all over the world and what took place. So the world is watching, for sure. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program, Rough Greens. Give it to my dogs every single day. I have 3 dogs. My puppies, I give it to them because I want them to start out great. Right? My older dog, I give to him because I want him to continue to go. And that's exactly what Doodle the dog does. He just goes and goes and goes. His joints don't hurt because Canine Vita Smart, I just sprinkle on top of his food. It brings his food to life. He's bouncy. He's happy. It's amazing. Now, I've given out several bags to coworkers here. Every one of them has signed up for their dogs. And the reason's pretty simple. Not only did the dogs love it, they see a noticeable difference, including my buddy Pablo. His dog is much older, and he jokes with me. He goes, man, this thing's going to give my dog another 5 years of life. Canine Vita Smart works. It's got everything your dog's food is lacking, from vitamins, minerals, probiotics, omega-3, 6, 9. Try it for yourself before you even buy it. They're going to send it to you free. You pay for shipping. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad, ruffgreens.com/Chad, or call 833-MyDog77, 833-MyDog77. Rough Greens. We make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
I'm so tired. I'm exhausted.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
We'll try to get some shooting up, go over some basic concepts. We know Gonzaga is an extremely explosive offensive basketball team, so we have to try to contain them the best we can. And then Gonzaga, you have to be able to score the ball. You can't have the game in the 60s and expect to win. So we'll have to continue to shoot the ball well and make that a point of emphasis in our practice.
Look, that's Andy Enfield. He's the coach of USC. They're not going to win, but USC's already won. Right? The Pac-12, by the way, has already won. In my bracket, still okay. Arkansas was my first disappointment. They lost yesterday to Baylor. But I had Gonzaga and SC in this game. Gonzaga's going to win this one. They're my champions. I don't see anybody who's going to beat them. Baylor will give them a test, that's for sure. Once you get to the Final Four, anything is possible. On the other side, right, I still have Houston, which is awesome. Like, that's a win. They play, they're just, they beat Oregon State last night, and they're sitting pretty. UCLA and Michigan will play tonight, and the winner of those will be, battling it out. And it's March Madness. So far, I'm doing all right. I sucked at the beginning, but I tell you what, we're going to touch on it a little bit later because social justice and wokeness have really hurt sports. Seriously hurt sports. And I don't think people, realize it's great that you go out with your movement and you talk about stuff, and I got zero problems with that. But at the same time, there is no denying, according to a new study, that it has put a hard hurting on ratings. And I think people are starting to go, ooh, because it's people like money. I like money. And right now, they're looking around going, wow, not only has this happened, coronavirus, but also the social justice warrior stuff has hurt. And I've never been a person to say, shut up and dribble. Use your platform if you've got it, right? If that's what you want to do. Got zero problems with that. But then, what comes with it? Well, it comes with the fact that, in your pocketbook, you may pay a price. And for somebody who's a superstar, LeBron James, you're worth $700 million, $600 million. That doesn't bug you as much as somebody who is a guy who's still trying to get that big contract, and you don't want to be a pariah, and you're seeing people leave the sport viewership-wise, and it's cutting into your long term. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
He was vocalizing it to the officer. He said, my stomach hurt, I can't breathe, my head hurts, I want my mom.
Donald Williams yesterday, who is on the stand again today, one of the witnesses, describing what he saw, describing the last minutes and moments of George Floyd's life with Derek Chauvin, the officer who had his knee on top of Derek Chauvin's neck. On George Floyd's neck. So you got Chauvin, the officer. You've seen the video. He has got his knee on his neck, and their whole thing is, well, he was distracted, and the crowd and trying to keep him, and all the while people are filming and watching this, and while that's going on, you could still hear George Floyd as he struggles to breathe and speak.
He was going through distress because of the knee, and he vocalized it that I can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry. And his eyes slowly rose to the back of his head. You seen the blood coming out of his nose. You heard him tell him before he stopped speaking that my stomach hurts, and those most of the times is the last vowel movement of your life. So from there on, he was lifeless. He didn't move. He didn't speak.
Powerful. It's powerful. Absolutely. And you're going to hear a lot more of that. The defense itself, what is your argument going to be in a situation like this? There's a guy who's saying everybody's seen the video. That guy was there. What is your argument? Your first argument is he was distracted. People around. He's looking up for 9+ minutes, right? For 9 minutes. But it just feels like, I was telling the boys off the air, they're not trying to get a not guilty. They're trying to get the least guilt of all. Voluntary manslaughter, manslaughter itself, that's what they're shooting for. The reality is if they can get third-degree murder, I think they would see that as a victory in this.
That's a potentially dangerous argument for the defense to make, that somehow Derek Chauvin wasn't paying enough attention. And I think that it was an error by the defense to not at least nod to, acknowledge the power of that video that those jurors sat there and watched for all that time.
Yeah. I said yesterday, I'll say it again. It's 9:29 is the amount of time that apparently his knee was on there for. We heard 8:40 something or other. But if I'm the defense, whatever you end up going with, if I'm the prosecution, I rest my case by saying for the next 9 minutes and 29 seconds, we will not say a word, and we are going to be quiet. Silence is powerful. It is. It's very powerful. And in a situation like that, with everything else, it'll be interesting to see what the defense can really do. And if your defense is going to be, he was distracted. That's your defense. Oh, he was totally distracted. That is not a defense. That is a Hail Mary. And the problem is you didn't have anybody downfield to catch the ball. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. Kids back in school, absolutely a must. You know that, and I know that. It's hard to think that we're going to get back to school or any normalcy in any time when you have the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, coming out and saying this.
Deaths, which typically lag behind cases and hospitalizations, have now started to rise. When I first started at CDC about 2 months ago, I made a promise to you. I would tell you the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear. Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
It's hard to think we're going to get back to any kind of normality. The impending doom. The impending doom. My goodness me. We've got 3 vaccines. More look like they could be on the way. We're getting closer with Merrick having some sort of potential treatment. And you're talking about impending. Well, cases are going up, and it's going to happen. You let people out of the house. Guess what happens? Look, we could cure all viruses if you kept us indoor forever. Pretty much cure everything at that point, from viruses and all of that stuff. But people want to live their lives, and kids being one of them. And this is Dr. Peter Oates right here talking about kids, vaccinations, back to school is all over the place.
Things are going to be a lot easier starting in the fall than they've been for the last year, and a couple of reasons. First of all, I think teachers and staff will be fully vaccinated, and the parents by the fall. I think we'll probably have the data to start vaccinating adolescents so that junior high schools, middle schools, high schools could have pretty much everybody fully vaccinated by the fall. I think that's within the realm of possibility.
Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Like I said yesterday, my son's 10. He's not going back to school, at least not yet. And he's been out of school since late February last year. So think about that. Late February last year, he's been out of school. Can't wait to get back to school. It's hard to think that a child would say that. I can't wait to get back to school. But craving the human interaction of a day-to-day normal life is something. I wouldn't have him vaccinated. Just because I don't, he's 10. He's going to be fine. The possibility is always there. Again, flu is far worse for children than this is. But when it comes to elementary schools, there's this bizarre, weird thing where it's like, we can't have this open. It was like, well, why can't? Some schools can. Some states have said, yeah, we're doing this. Other states are doing weird variants at best. And some states are still fighting. Most of those have to do with the unions.
I doubt we're going to have the data for the little kids yet to support vaccinating younger kids. So we'll still have a bit of a rocky road in the elementary schools by 2022. Next year, I think we'll vaccinate the younger kids. But no question, things are going to be so much better for the fall school year. So I think, yes, we can have a good fall school year, but we've got a dramatically lower transmission in this country.
Yeah. But if you're looking for zero, it isn't going to happen. And that's what the vaccines are for. It's not going to happen overnight, and we're not going to wait another 6 months or a year to get back to our lives. It just isn't going to take place. Human beings aren't going to do this anymore. They're not. People are getting out. They're getting their vaccinations, and they're going out and they're participating. People are like, I can't believe they're doing that. Why? Why? If you've been living your life half full, if you will, half empty, and you got both vaccinations or you've had it and got both vaccinations, I think at this point in time, you're pretty much like, I'm doing whatever I want to do. Well, that's not very fair. No, it's just life. It's human nature. We're going to push back. We're going to.
With that B117 variant that is more transmissible, and which is going to be the dominant variant in the U.S. for the foreseeable future. And it's affecting younger groups now. We're starting to see in the upper Midwest now a lot of young adults going into hospitals and ICUs. So we've got to get that under control. Until we do that, we really can't even talk about much of anything.
Yeah, of course. Until we get to that, it's all doom and gloom. Gets old after a while, kids. You know that, and I know that. At some point in time, you're just like, you better start figuring out how we're going to move forward in the way that you guys are. Because on the feds and the state level, you guys are on different worlds. I mean, even yesterday you had Biden coming out basically asking, all the GOP people to back off. Hey, is there any way you guys can go back? Is there any way you can reinstate and do things?
I'm reiterating my call for every governor, mayor, and local leader to maintain and reinstate the mask mandate. Please, this is not politics. Reinstate the mandate if you let it down. And business should require masks as well. The failure to take this virus seriously, precisely what got us in this mess in the first place.
No, what got us in this mess is the fact that the World Health Organization, who came out yesterday and basically gave, hey, you know what? We've looked at this, and this is pretty solid.
So far from the sources that I have, there is no evidence that this virus was engineered in a laboratory. I didn't personally look at the genomic sequence, so I can't really say for sure. But so far, what we know, it does not seem like it came out from a laboratory and was naturally occurring.
Whether it was, here's the thing. If you know what goes on in that level 4 lab in Wuhan, and we've had Jamie Metzler, we've had several people talk about this, stuff goes on there. Stuff. Some of it's super above board. Others, we're not quite sure. But I'll tell you guys this. Let's say you have your husband and your wife, and they're always on their phone, and they're ever showing it, doing something, and you say, what are you doing over there? Who are you talking to? I say, can I see your phone? And they say, yeah, hold on a second. Maybe. And they change all of the stuff in their phone, and they delete a bunch of things. Would you find that suspicious? Just, I'm curious. Would that raise your level of suspicion to a certain level? Because maybe in the past they've had some issues outside of said relationship. Would you find that to be suspicious? Probably. Think of China like that. Right? And it's a marriage. You're kind of stuck in it. And you're trying to be above board, and they're not. Man or woman, doesn't matter. And they're over there on their phone, and they've already cheated in the past. And now they're doing other things, and it feels very suspicious. And you ask a question, and it's no, never. And, you could only look at certain things, and you've taken everything off. You would find that to be suspicious. I've not said it was a biochemical, super viral released out. But what I have said is that there's a lot more to the story, and how this thing got out is probably more Barney Fife than it is nefarious. But how it was covered up was far more nefarious than Barney Fife. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Guess what, kids? It's open.
Ships once again sailing through the Suez Canal, resuming global trade for the first time in nearly a week. That after a salvage team freed the colossal Ever Given cargo ship stuck sideways in the waterway. It is expected to take several days to clear the backlog of over 300 cargo ships. An investigation now underway to determine what caused the Ever Given to crash into the bank. It delayed the delivery of billions of dollars in goods, from cattle to oil. Lawsuits are expected.
Yeah, you think? By the way, there was a collision with the Ever Given in 2019 in Hamburg. Just basically struck the whole city. It's large. Tonnage, 220,940 tons. I mean, it is, length is almost, well, I mean, it's almost 400 meters. So think about that. It's about 1,300 plus feet. It is massive. 107 feet is its depth. It is huge. There's not many other ships out there that are as big as this. It's definitely in the top 10. And that's massive. That's huge. Like, you don't realize how big it is until you see a human being standing next to it. Then you're like, wow, we are really small. We are like ants to ants. To ants to ants of giant, huge, giant monster. I mean, that's how tiny you are. It's like you're a grain of sand when you stand next to something that big. But back in business. But see what happens with your fuel, wherever you are, your gas, because there is going to be a trickle-down effect, and you could see some gas prices spike here in the coming days and weeks. And that's before we get to the point where it's summertime. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. All right, let's talk about Raycon. Best earbuds around. Love my Raycons. I wear them. I do a lot of work. On the computer, and I love having my Bluetooth wireless earbuds from Raycon, especially when I'm editing videos, when I'm doing a lot of different things. It is truly incredible how great they sound. The sound quality is amazing. 6 hours of talk time, seamless Bluetooth pairing, and many, many other things to go with it. Plus a price point that it's incredible. And I'm telling everybody, just give it a try. If you want earbuds that are real, like nobody wants wires and stems, and nobody wants that. If you want stuff that's real, you want something that's comfortable, you could spend $300 or $400 on something else, or you could say, you know what, I'm going to try these Raycons. Chad likes them. You try them. You feel and hear the difference with the fit and the sound quality. They start well under $100, and I'm going to save you an extra 15%. BuyRaycon.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Welcome to Chad. No, not the country. The institution. The Chad Benson Show.
Just to give you guys an idea, we're talking about the Ever Given, how big it is. The Empire State Building and the Ever Given, if you were to lay them down side by side, take out the spires and the antennas, just the building itself. The Ever Given is 62 feet, 2 inches longer. Just to give you a sense of how big that thing is that was in the Suez Canal holding up stuff.
I got my peaches out in Georgia. Justin Bieber getting more than just peaches, he's getting records. His new album Justice debuts at #1 on the Billboard 200 album chart. His new single Peaches debuts at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. The first time a male artist has debuted on top of both charts simultaneously. The only other two to do it, BTS and Taylor Swift. Swift has done it twice. Justice knocks Morgan Wallen out of the top spot on the album chart, where the controversial country star reigned for 10 weeks. Justice is Bieber's 8th #1 album. At just over 27 years old, he's the youngest artist with 8 chart toppers. Elvis previously had the record.
Yeah, Elvis had the record. He is no longer with us, but still making money. I wonder what Elvis is pulling down every year. I always wonder that. I'm like, wonder what, because you'll get that dead celebrities, and you like, okay, what did they make last year? And sometimes you'll be like, whoa, they made how much? It's crazy. Speaking of celebrities, they're not dead. But apparently, what's the website again, Phil? 45 what?
45 Office.
45 Office. So you go to 45 Office, and you can book. You can book the president, the former president, and former first lady for like your events. I'm not lying. 45 Office will allow individuals to submit correspondence, scheduling requests, and press inquiries for said president. We were joking. He's going to be on Cameo soon. It's great. It's wonderful. It's fantastic for you guys to be here. He's going to totally be doing Cameo. I make $300 million a year doing Cameo. You know Trump would do it, too. He would totally do it. He would Cameo the hell out of it. Who wouldn't pay for it? Hell yeah, I'll pay you a couple grand if you want to. Anthony's like, I'd love for him to do my voicemail. Of course, who wouldn't? That'd be great. You've reached Anthony. You've reached Chad of the Chad Show. Not here. Not doing his thing. He's a meanie. He's going to be on Cameo. Oh, my Lord. Coronavirus. President's renting himself out. Former president's renting himself out. Open up your dealership in Saginaw. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It seems as though his strategy is going to be almost death by a lot of little cuts. He's attacking whether or not there were distractions by the bystanders, whether or not there were training. He's going to talk about the drugs. He's going to try to find enough little holes that someone and members of the jury create that reasonable doubt.
Yeah, the defense attorney for Derek Chauvin, how is he going to, and their entire team, defend something as powerful as that video? How does that happen? How does a defense attorney look over and say, all right, they've got video, they've got eyewitnesses, and normally you ask police and you ask attorneys, eyewitnesses are horrible. They're just, because you have 5 people witness something, you're going to get 5 different answers on what happened. Partly because they're going to be in different areas, right? So you got one over here, you got one over there, you got one over there, you got one here, and you got a couple over here. They're going to, even the people next to each other are going to see different things. Well, I saw this, or maybe I turned my head up here and I was viewing it 30 seconds before this person did. So eyewitnesses are really not the greatest, but video evidence is absolutely powerful. You can't deny that. And the video evidence is clear and it's right there, and the world saw it.
I expected them to say, we recognize how hard that was to watch. We recognize how emotional that is, but they didn't say that. Instead, he simply said he was following his training and he may have been distracted by the people around who were taking videos.
Distraction is where they kind of went with this yesterday. People were taking videos. There was a crowd around. I was trying to hold him down. Is what they're saying. Derek Chauvin was trying to hold him down. They were trying to get the situation sorted out. There was a crowd building. He was distracted. He was distracted by this all that was going on. So these 9+ minutes, 9 minutes and 29 seconds, all of this stuff's happening. He's distracted, hoping the other officers are going to be able to essentially calm down the crowd. That's their defense, at least to this point. On the other side, Donald Williams was on the stand yesterday and today talking about what he saw and what was going on.
He was going through distress because of the knee, and he vocalized it, that I can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry. And his eyes slowly rolled to the back of his head. You seen the blood coming out of his nose. You heard him tell him before he stopped speaking that my stomach hurts, and those most of the times is the last bowel movement of your life. So from there on, he was lifeless. He didn't move. He didn't speak.
No, didn't move, didn't speak, as he breathed out and then said,
he was vocalizing it to the officer. He said, my stomach hurt, I can't breathe, my head hurts, I want my mom.
Powerful. Absolutely. So we'll see. I said it before, I'll say it again. Is this the trial of the century? So far, it'll be the trial of this century. But the world is watching. George Floyd and what took place, it was a perfect storm of people who are pent up. Coronavirus. We're a few months into it, right? You had that going on. Second thing you had going on is you were watching the, and some people say the haves and the have-nots where it was getting larger. And then the video. And the world watched. It wasn't just us. I mean, Rodney King, VHS, far away. We saw the whole thing happen, and you saw it, and it was awful, and it was horrible, and the trial was on, but it wasn't like it is now. It didn't go viral. There wasn't the outcry. The world kind of knew what happened, and they saw it, but outside of that, nobody could tell you who Rodney King was over there, where here we did, and they knew what the riots were, but they don't even – I had friends coming over from Europe. They were flying in the day of the first day of the riots. And as they're flying in, they could see over Los Angeles all this stuff burning. And I'm back home, recovering from an injury, and my mom has a company. She's got me out working in the riots because she's a solid mom. And people don't realize this. The Rodney King, that didn't happen because of the beating. That happened because of the acquittal. But most people around the world couldn't tell you what the riots were about. They just know about the Los Angeles riots. Everybody knows George Floyd. Athletes, politicians, entertainers around the world knew what took place, and they raised awareness of what took place. And you go to places like London, and you go to places in Italy, and there's murals of George Floyd. This is the world's watching moment. Doesn't mean that you go and automatically say you're guilty of something, but the world is watching to see what takes place here. Do I think that he's guilty of something? Absolutely. Do I think that he's going to be convicted of something? 100%. Weirder things have happened? Yes. The video is undeniable that you can see what takes place. Now, is there more to the story as far as was he struggling in a sense with drugs and alcohol or stuff in his system that could have played a role in his demise? Yes. In his death? Yes. In the killing of George Floyd? Yes. In saying all of that, still, the world is watching to see how this plays itself out. I was talking yesterday to Monica Lindstrom. She's a legal expert out here. She did a lot of stuff. She's on Court TV, a lot of stuff with Dan Abrams, Jodi Arias case. And we were talking, and she says, as a juror, too, you're also watching this take place. And you're thinking to yourself, I saw what took place in the summer. I don't want our town to burn down. That can't be a reason you convict or don't convict somebody. But don't think that it's not weighing in the minds of those individuals. My goodness, even if we think he's innocent, we found out later on that his heart was going to explode because he had so much drugs in him. And if we don't, They could burn our town down. You can't have that in your mind. You're supposed to go in there, as unbiased as possible. Look at all the evidence, weigh all the evidence, and make a decision from there. And what takes place outside of the courtroom shouldn't have any bearing on what evidence is presented to you. Doesn't mean, though, as human beings, they won't think about that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Do you guys feel doom? Anybody? No, not the movie. I was not thrilled by the movie. Right? I wasn't. Carl Urban, I enjoyed. The Rock, wasn't very good in. I think it's one of the only times he's been a bad guy. Just, it wasn't good. The game was pretty cool. But no, I'm not talking about that doom. I'm talking about the CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, talking about doom.
Deaths, which typically lag behind cases and hospitalizations, have now started to rise. When I first started at CDC about 2 months ago, I made a promise to you. I would tell you the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear. Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
Yeah, impending doom. Impending doom. Why? Because we're seeing cases rise again. We're seeing cases rise in places like Michigan and other places. One of the reasons some of these cases can rise is just a natural thing. You're going to get back out there. What do you expect? You're never going to get it to zero. It's just not going to happen, partially because not everybody's going to be vaccinated. The other part is because it's not 100% against catching it. So far, it seems to be 100% from getting sick and dying because of COVID. So it's never going to be 100%. But some states, they're seeing a flatlining and or really a steep fall in their cases and death. And part of the reason is because it was so, well, you can call it whatever you want, mismanaged, some people call it, or, more open, others call it. And during that time, a lot more people are infected. Asymptomatic people and people that actually tested positive and were counted. And because of that, you had what? Well, you got more herd immunity because you have more people that have been infected and have had it and have antibodies naturally. You couple that with the mitigation system we have now with vaccines, you put those things together, what do you have? You have a larger number of people that are immune to it, and because of that, the virus doesn't have anywhere to go, and so it runs out of steam. The doom and gloom gets a little old. It does. And Dr. Rochelle, Walensky, as well as Biden and Dr. Fauci, it gets old more often than not. It's one thing to be cautious. It's another thing to live in absolute fear, which I always feel like the feds are trying to do comparatively to the states. But it's always doom. Everything is doom.
We will administer more shots in March than any country on earth. But even so, we have to give more shots in April than we did in March. Because we're in the life and death race with the virus that is spreading quickly, with cases rising again, new variants are spreading, and sadly, some of the reckless behavior we've seen on television over the past few weeks means that more new cases are to come in the weeks ahead.
Yeah. And that's going to happen. But as you open up, it's going to happen naturally. The reality, though, is the more that we get people vaccinated, the more that we've got 3 vaccines. We're vaccinating more people than anybody else. We're going to be fine. But there's going to be some moments where in some states they're going to have some real trials. And other states are just going to motor through. And partly because, when they were having their real serious issues, other states were locked down. But that situation has, given them a front running, if you will, in the herd immunity because so many people got sick early on. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. My Pillow. Chad, you doing My Pillow? Yes. Look, I'm going to tell you guys. We're talking about this yesterday. I'm straightforward. You guys know that. I'm not going to BS you. I'd never do that. It's not who I am. It's not what I'm about. Product's great. He's a little out there. There you go. Said it. Love it. Love the product. And right now he's got towels. I love my towels. I've got all the towels and then some that he has. And he's essentially giving you towels left, right, and center. If you like towels, you're like, how about this? A single 6-piece set gets 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, 2-pack of washcloths. It's going to double that. 2 for 1. Fantastic. I love the MyPillows. I love all the stuff and all the product that they make. And it's made in the United States of America, which is awesome. 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee, no lotiony fill, which is awesome. Super absorbent, and 7 colors to choose from. So right now, for my listeners, 2 6-piece sets of MyPillow towels for one low price and free shipping. All I want you to do is use promo code Benson at checkout or call 800-983-4975. It's MyPillow.com, MyPillow.com, promo code Benson, 800-983-4975. Get 2 6-piece towel sets for one low price and free shipping. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old intranet. What's trending? All right, let's take a peek around the globe and the United States of America. Find out what is trending on the trending world. Start first and foremost over on Google. Baylor trending big time. Basketball last night. You didn't see? It's bizarre the way they do things now. It used to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's the way that it went in college basketball. Now it's all these different nights. But they on their way with the victory, continuing to move forward. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, CDC director, says she's scared and it's all doom. Ooh. Satan shoes. Nike is suing the maker of Lil Nas X Satan shoes for trademark infringement. So Nike got a lot of blowback. You always wonder if there wasn't any blowback, and we're going to touch on this in a little bit. Would there be a lawsuit company? Because a lot of these artists and these athletes and it's all about after marketing so many of these shoes now, and taking a shoe and after marketing. So it's very, very interesting to see what takes place with this. And there's supposed to be blood in here. Blood. Pentagram, upside down cross. So, Captain Underpants, we're going to talk about that. Because of passive racism, he is, his spinoff has been pulled. Yeah. The book under scrutiny was The Adventures of Ook. And I'm going to screw it up. And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, my goodness. It's a kung fu. Ook and I think Guk. And it's called passive racism. And I'm thinking to myself, is this where we're at now? Is passive racism? What the hell does it even mean? Oh, we'll discuss. Head on over to Twitter. Real world study, CDC shows Pfizer and Moderna are 90% effective. Big time. Big time. President Reagan, 40th anniversary of him being shot. I don't know if that's an anniversary, but we're just marking that thing there. And yes, Captain Underpants. And what's taking place with that? What's that? Well, Captain Underpants. He apparently did something wrong. He wrote a book that now has passive racism. I never even heard of that. What's the difference between passive racism and microaggression? Is that also are they different? Because they kind of feel the same. I don't know. There's so many things that you can do wrong. I don't even know. Just remember Family Guy where Peter Griffin said, did I just do a racism? Oh my God, it's insane. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
At least 90% of all adults in this country will be eligible to be vaccinated by April the 19th.
Really? Here in Arizona and a lot of places already have already gone to 16 plus, which is good. We're moving further and further ahead as far as how many people are getting this opportunity to be vaccinated. It is a long process. You know, when you think about it's a short process in how we've done things in the past, but a long process for a lot of these states who, you know, they've rolled out different things and tried different things. And some states have done it really well. But us as a nation as a whole, I mean, we're crushing it. There's nobody's even close to what we're doing. Nobody's even close. We are that far ahead of everybody else. But people are still worried. And, you know, CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, I keep going back to it, but you just listen to her, and it's just doom.
Deaths, which typically lag behind cases and hospitalizations, have now started to rise. When I first started at CDC about 2 months ago, I made a promise to you. I would tell you the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear. Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
Doom. By the way, I love how I'm going to, you know, tell you the truth. First of all, we live in a world now where nobody wants to hear the truth. Good, bad. Good truth, okay. Bad truth, no. 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 Bad truth, no. Could there be doom? Yeah. Hey, by the way, a variant could come out of nowhere and wipe us all out. Every one of us. And we couldn't. That is always a possibility. Anything's a possibility. We could miss something, you know. We're looking out in the sky, something can happen in our oceans, and the next thing you know, oh my God. Anything is possible. But is it likely? There are issues here to me that I have with this administration, and just look, I give him an A for the vaccine, you know, rollout that he is, you know, that's been under his watch since he's taken over, and the way that the states are going about doing things. I have zero problems with that. The Debbie Downer all the time, or Donnie Downer, as Dr. Fauci does his thing, that gets old. We need some positivity. Right? If you tell everybody everything's going to suck all the time and you need to live in fear basically every single day, after a while, two things are happening. You're going to get the sheeple that you've dreamed of, or people are going to stop paying attention, which is worse than being frustrated at you. They just don't pay attention to you. Each state's going to be different, and each individual's going to be different. There you go. You can only do what's right for you. Wear a mask, get vaccinated. Don't get vaccinated. I don't care. Why don't you care, Chad? Because I don't. You're an individual. You're an adult. You're responsible for you. So you do you. I'll do me. You do you. We'll go from there. It's that simple. But to live in doom and gloom all the time gets old. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Trial going on right now. Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, murder case. The defense didn't do well yesterday. Prosecution did.
He used phrases like that Chauvin did not let up, he did not get up, and he did not do that until someone told him to do that, even though he knew that Floyd had no pulse, that he wasn't moving, that he wasn't resisting. So I thought the prosecution did an excellent job.
And, you know, it's you've got that video. That video changes so much, right? Because you see it, and it's not a slap kind of put together video where you've got, we're not quite sure what took place, the preceding 20 minutes. All we see is 18 seconds or whatever. You've got a full length video. You've got several different angles. You have several witnesses, which are not always great. Let's be real. Witnesses, they tell lies. Witnesses at times don't get things right, or they, even if you have several of them, they'll tell you different stories. And to them, it's right. It's not a lie. So you've got a lot of different things. Super, super powerful. That should be the thing that you go after. If you're them, is if you're the prosecution, you just continue to hammer the video over and over again. You continue to. I don't need eyewitnesses are there. You can have them, and you've had some of them, and some of that stuff has been powerful, talking about how he wanted his mom and all this. But the power is going to come in the video, and then eventually the silence. And that's what I would do. If I was the prosecution, I would rest on 9 minutes and 29 seconds of silence. We're not going to say a word. That is powerful. And if you're defense, you're doing everything you can to get him the least of the 3 charges. That's the way I look at it. I think they'd be happy with third-degree murder, and they'd be ecstatic with manslaughter. That's just my take. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. In the world of chaos and craziness, Captain Underpants apparently has done something wrong. The author has done something wrong because, So he did a graphic novel spinoff. It's for children. You have a graphic novel for children? Like, who wrote it? Who wrote it? Who wrote the graphic novel? He did. And it was called, it's 2010, by the way. It's called The Adventures of Ook and Gluck by Dave Pilkey. And it says it contains harmful racial stereotypes and is wrong and harmful to my Asian readers. So essentially, there are a pair of friends who travel from 500,001 BC to 2222, where they meet martial arts instructors who teach them kung fu and learn the principles found in Chinese philosophy. Sounds like an awful, dangerous, racist thing.
The author of nearly 50 books calling Billy and his 2 young boys just a couple days later and publicly apologizing, saying he hopes his readers will, quote, forgive me and learn from my mistake that even unintentional and passive stereotypes and racism is harmful to everyone.
So I'm like going, okay, so like what is happening here that he did that was so wrong, right? Like, I mean, first of all, we got that new thing now, which is the passive racism. So, and it's passive. I'm like, okay, so like passive, like how? Like what's, like if because to me, when I hear stuff like passive racism or microaggressions, what that is you've taken something and you've run with it, and you've interpreted something now that is ridiculous. So, and I'm like, okay, so what is it? So you got 2 cavemen who somehow have figured out time travel. There's what goes wrong right there, because that wasn't even happening. And then they go and they learn kung fu, and that's bad. That's evil. Like, how is that? Because it's evil. It's racist.
World-renowned author Dave Pilkey's children's book being taken off shelves for what its publisher calls passive racism, a subtle form of racism that normalizes discrimination. The 2010 book Adventures of Ook and Gluck was a graphic novel from the Captain Underpants creator, featuring time-traveling cavemen training at Master Wong's School of Kung Fu. A Korean-American father, Billy Kim, posting a complaint about the book to Change.org last Thursday.
Okay. So he posts something that says, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what exactly did he do? That they learned kung fu from somebody? Well, what if it was a guy named Mike Stevens? I guess. All this is going on, right? Like, I want to tell you guys this. All this is happening. But before this happened, and I was telling the guys before this was happening, about an hour before this thing popped up, I saw a trailer on CW created by Christine M. Kim, starring Olivia Li Zhang, Zhai Ma, Ken Hu Tan, called Kung Fu. And I'm like, is that passive racism? Can you do that? Can you have that? Can you have passive racism even though it's, yes, apparently can everywhere.
Pilkey says he is determined to make this a teachable moment. He and his wife pledging to donate that book's advance and royalties to multiple charities, including organizations that help stop Asian hatred.
Man, if you hate Asian people, you're an idiot. If you hate anybody, you're an idiot. Now, you can hate individuals, right? Just because you're Asian or black or Hispanic or white or gay or straight or Christian or Hindu, or doesn't mean you can't be a Richard. And like, you can always be awful. Right? But just hating for the sake of hating is silly. But I'm just trying to remember, like, I'm looking at this and I'm really trying to figure out where it's inside the book. There must be something I'm missing, which is always a possibility. I'm not saying it's, I've missed things before. Right? There's only so much information I could consume. But also when it comes to trying to figure out what other people are thinking, it says, passive stereotypes. What that Asians and the Chinese teach kung fu. Let's go back, by the way, to the late 60s and 70s. We talk about Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee came here and he did something that the Chinese didn't want him to do. He taught to the West. This, if you know anything about Bruce Lee, they didn't want him to teach to the West. They didn't want him to teach to anybody who wasn't Chinese. And there was, a lot of, mysteries and tales about the great fights that went on between him and some of the elders inside of the triad community and the Chinese community because he was teaching. It's amazing. It's like we've gotten to that point now. It's like, why do you need an apology from somebody over something that was created by the Chinese and that people would, it blows my mind. Passive racism. That's what it is now. Now, here's the funny thing. If you'd written a book and they would have come to the future and they would have learned from a dude named Steve Johnson, people are like, see what happened there? You appropriated Kung Fu. Can't win, man. You just can't win. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. I do. Your love, your hate, whatever it is. Just ask that you keep it semi PG-13. That's all I ask when you're yelling at each other. Home Title Lock, protecting your house, continuing to do so from cyber criminals who would like to steal your home. It's easier than you think. They don't actually have to come up with a truck and, throw it on the back of the truck and drive it away. No, what they do is they steal your title. They go online, they pull names, addresses, and deeds, which are all legal, out there for the world to see because they're public domain. They quit claim the deeds to themselves, forge everything, in doing so, take control of your equity, your home, and your future. Start taking out loans. By the time you realize it, you're so far behind that you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at times fighting it or paying your way out of it. Home Title Lock makes sure that doesn't happen. They protect you from top to bottom. If anything happens to your title whatsoever, they alert you immediately so you can stop it. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use code radio, 30 days free protection. HomeTitleLock.com, code radio. HomeTitleLock.com, code radio, 30 days free protection. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
All of that going on, we still have other issues like, the border.
This crisis that is unfolding is the direct result of political decisions made by Joe Biden and his administration.
No, wrong. You're lying there, Ted. Has it been exacerbated? Yes, that it has been. Has there been issues that have arisen over the last 60-plus days that Joe Biden's administration, through rolling back a lot of stuff, that has caused chaos? Absolutely. But this is 35 years in the making, not just the last 60 or 90 days with Joe Biden. This is a long, 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 long time in the making.
The instant Joe Biden was sworn in, construction halted. The holes are left wide open. Illegal immigration is crossing through the holes.
A joke, again. It's a joke. The wall's a joke. Talked to Border Patrol agents who are saying, man, these guys just have rudimentary tools. They're just cutting through this stuff. It's not a big deal. It's not hard. It's not hard for them to cut through this. It's simple and easy. Right? They're just, just coming on through. Oh, well, how is that even possible? Because this was never going to stop people. It's how you deal with the crisis at hand if you do find it to be a crisis. But we've got the wall, and nobody should be able to get over it, really.
Well, what we saw was a man dressed in camouflage. He was climbing over the top of that new border wall. It's about 30 feet high off the ground.
But I thought that wasn't possible. No, it was very much possible. Right? All of these things, if somebody wants to get here, they're going to get here. This isn't Joe Biden's fault as far as, everything that's happening here with immigration is all. No, this has been going on for 35 years. And ignoring of the problem, allowing the problem to get worse and worse, using it to your advantage when necessary. And that includes when things get tough and things get, ugly at the border and people are crossing in here illegally. And that includes when, we don't have a massive influx, and you can brag about how great that's been.
Last year, we had the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. The policies were working.
Some of that's true. And some of it also has to do with the fact that we had a major pandemic going on. So, not saying what he's saying is all a lie. I'm just putting it out there that there's a lot to unpack in a lot of what people say about this. And remember, both sides are going to come up with their argument. Both sides are going to come up with all kinds of things of why this side's bad and that side's bad. Here's just the simple truth that they're not going to tell you. I'm going to go off script, as Dr. Walensky from the CDC would say, is they're not interested in a solution. They're interested in your money and you being emotionally charged over this so they can gain votes and power. It's what they're interested in. That's it. Period. Nobody else is really sold on doing anything else. Nobody else is trying to really fix the problem in a meaningful way. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the programs to Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Deaths, which typically lag behind cases and hospitalizations, have now started to rise. When I first started at CDC about 2 months ago, I made a promise to you. I would tell you the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear. Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script. And I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
That's fun. She's fun. She's a good time. That's Dr. Walensky. She's the head of the CDC, and you can hear from there that she's impending doom. Like, those are big words. Like, hey, guess what? The pending doom. What's going to happen? I don't know. It's just pending doom. She makes it seem like the engines and the wings fell off our plane. That's not true. We just ran into a few turbulence here and there, but by and large, from here on out, I think it's going to be pretty good. Not saying there couldn't be something else, but when's the last time that, like, here's the thing. There are people out there where if they say it's going to be bad because of the attitude they have and the way that they're kind of a straight shooter and the positivity and stuff, and they say, this is going to be bad, you go, okay, I'm listening to you now. Because you're saying something that, to me, it's a little bit alarming because you're not that type of person. When you're always talking about the fact that everything is going to be bad, everything's going to fall apart, the sky is always falling, that all the rain is acid, and it's tough to know, well, why should I believe you at this point? Why should I believe you at this point? Well, because I'm the CDC director. That's fine, but you're also in a political power position. And if you don't think that plays a part in anything, you're fooling yourself. Of course it is. All these moves that are being made in the coronavirus world, and I'm not talking about people at the level dealing with the patients individually and stuff like that. I'm just talking about the higher ups, from the school boards to the city councils to your mayors and your state officials and your governor to the feds. A majority of those things are being done first based on politics more than anything else. So when you come out and tell me doom, you think to yourself, my God, what's coming? Well, we've got a vaccine. A lot of people have caught this thing. I mean, we're heading towards a herd immunity. Oh, Chad, we're I heard somebody said to me yesterday, we're probably a year or two away from that. How are we a year or two away from herd immunity? I'm just curious. Schools. Like, listen to this. This is where people get confused. Here's a message that's all over the place. Dr. Peter Hotz talking about kids, schools, vaccinations.
Things are going to be a lot easier starting in the fall than they've been for the last year, and a couple of reasons. First of all, I think teachers and staff will be fully vaccinated and the parents by the fall. I think we'll probably have the data to start vaccinating adolescents so that junior high schools, middle schools, high schools could have pretty much everybody fully vaccinated by the fall. I think that's within the realm of possibility.
Okay, that's within the realm of possibility, apparently. If that's something that you want. But elementary schools, like I have a 10-year-old. He hasn't been to school since late February, early March last year. It's driven him crazy. He's fallen behind, and his school is really on it. Like his school, I don't know I see other kids, and I don't know how it works. I don't know how they're even coming close, because my son, his school is on it. They're a STEM school. They built apps out. They did everything, and they start at like 7:15, and they go late. But it doesn't mean that it's been awesome, and they have fallen. He and pretty much a lot of his schoolmates have fallen somewhat behind elementary school.
I doubt we're going to have the data for the little kids yet to support vaccinating younger kids. So we'll still have a bit of a rocky road in the elementary schools by 2022. Next year, I think we'll vaccinate the younger kids. But no question, things are going to be so much better for the fall school year. So I think, yes, we can have a good fall school year, but we've got a dramatically lower transmission in this country.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who doesn't want that? I think we all want that. We all want to see transmission of this thing go down, but you listen to this and you're like, all right, I'm not feeling like he's all over the place. But then, well, he leaves it, Dr. Hotz here, with this winner.
With that B117 variant that is more transmissible, which is going to be the dominant variant in the U.S. for the foreseeable future. And it's affecting younger groups now. We're starting to see in the upper Midwest now a lot of young adults going into hospitals and ICUs. So we've got to get that under control. Until we do that, we really can't even talk about much of anything.
Yeah. So we can't do that. So we get all of those things. So when there's another variant, it'll be a new kind of 25% of the population is under the age of 18, right? So 25% of the population is under the age. Leaves 240 million people that are eligible somewhat for the vaccine. I mean, there's 16, but I mean, I'm just going with this. Out of that, we have already given 150 plus million doses. About 60 million people are vaccinated fully. So you take that, right? Like they always say, well, it's only 15% of the U.S. population. Yes, but we've administered 150 million shots, and 54% of the population is fully vaccinated. Oh, well, that's a little bit different. Yeah. You drop down to 240 million people, and you go and you start rolling in how many people have caught this and survived it. Those need to count towards those numbers. And then the people that are vaccinated, even if you go with the vaccination, we're closing in on 50% of the people who have at least had one shot. People that are eligible, right? And this is where the game comes in because, we got to get 70% of people to have this shot. 70% of people or 70% of people that are eligible to get this? Because you're counting people that aren't eligible, and that's not good, right? You don't get to do that. That doesn't count. So at this point, more than 50% of America has had at least one shot, and almost 35% of America has had both. You couple that with the people that have caught this thing, we're closing in on somewhat herd immunity. Each little area is going to be different state-wise, but when you start to break the numbers down in a much different way, it gives you a different picture. Doesn't mean there can't be issues. Of course there can be. But we need to start living our lives. I think that is evident. And we should be working towards that rather than telling everybody, it's doom. It's all doom. All doom. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. The trial still underway of Derek Chauvin. Some compelling testimony over the last 2 days that has been rolled out and will continue to do so. Nothing more compelling than the actual video itself. I mean, the video says everything that I think you need to, you're seeing something. You're not hearing it from a witness. And some of the witnesses have been very, very, very important in this. There's no doubt about that. Donald Williams gave a very chilling portrait of what took place in the final moments leading up to his death.
He was going through distress because of the knee, and he vocalized it that I can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry. And his eyes slowly rolled to the back of his head. You seen the blood coming out of his nose. You heard him tell him before he stopped speaking that my stomach hurts, and those most of the times is the last bowel movement of your life. So from there on, he was lifeless. He didn't move. He didn't speak.
He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He didn't speak. And this, Donald Williams recanting it, to me said so much.
He was vocalizing it to the officer. He said, my stomach hurt. I can't breathe. My head hurts. I want my mom.
I want my mom. Terrified and scared in those moments, not knowing what's going to happen. Heart racing. Already knows he has heart issues. Scared and just terrified. Got an officer with his knee on your neck. You've got a crowd that is surrounding people taking pictures. You're having a panic attack on top of everything else, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse until eventually you die. Think about that. That's what the defense is doing. That's what the prosecution do. The defense, on the other hand, is kind of just like, he was distracted.
Seemed to be suggesting that Derek Chauvin may have been distracted at the time that he had his knee on George Floyd. And I think that's a tough legal argument to make, that somehow something might have gone wrong because he was distracted. George Floyd might have been killed because he was distracted.
Yeah. Might have been killed because he was distracted? Well, he's dead, and he died potentially at the knee of Derek Chauvin. Again, he's innocent until proven guilty, and that's what the trial is all about. The world is watching this. No doubt. George Floyd's death resonated throughout the globe. George Floyd's death was everywhere. For some, they used it as a political ploy. For others, just the fact that it was caught on tape and it resonated. This wasn't something where you didn't see it in a grainy video or something like that. This was for the world to watch. And your defense so far is like, well, there were people surrounding us. We were trying to get everybody in order, and I didn't really. And he was distracted. He didn't realize first of all, 9 minutes on somebody's neck, on your knee. I know I'm a little bit older at 50. I couldn't even imagine that. And having that, and you're not paying any attention. I could see being distracted, and police always say the first thing you do is you try to secure the area, make sure that, the looky-loos and the people that could potentially be part of something, that you try to calm that thing down. But come on, that's your defense? I'm telling you guys, this is, to me, my opinion, based not on any legal ease, but based on just the gut sense of everything, is they're doing everything they can to get him I think they believe he's probably guilty, and that because of all of the stuff, especially the video, that there's chances of him walking away from this is as far as with nothing is slim to none. Their best bet is if we can get involuntary voluntary manslaughter, whatever it is, we'll be happy. Third degree murder, but second degree, that's what they're trying to do, is avoid that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Rough Greens. Fantastic Rough Greens. Give it to my dogs every single day, and they love it. It has changed their lives. I give it to all my friends who have dogs. I say try it for them, and they are always surprised how amazing it works. It takes all the stuff your dog's food doesn't have just by sprinkling this on, and changes that. Gives them vitamins, minerals, and many other things that they're lacking. For joint health, for arthritis, especially for an older dog, what it has done for my dog is incredible. It really is. Try it before you buy it. K9 VitaSmart. They're giving away a bag for free. You just try it. You pay for shipping. You don't like it. Hey, you're not out anything. But your dog's going to love it. My dogs swear by it, and I listen to them. Roughgreens.com/Chad, RUFFgreens.com/Chad. Get yours now. Pay nothing except for shipping. Get a free bag or call 833-MY-DOG-77, 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens. Make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
We see the results of it being really effective in a clinical trial, but this study looked at it in the real world, and we found that it was up to 90% effective, only 2 hospitalizations, and close to 4,000 people, no deaths. So really remarkable.
Yeah, that's the real world study of Moderna and Pfizer. But we were just talking, about the herd immunity and how do we get there. And we need to have 70% of the population vaccinated. Well, 70% are adults. So we need to have every adult vaccinated, every child. Where exactly do we get to herd immunity? How is it based on? Is it 70% of the population or 70% of the adults in the population? Because children shouldn't count because they're not eligible for it. How are we doing this? I'm just curious about the numbers. Is that wrong to be curious? I don't think it is. I think it's a very fair thing to ask. Just me, kids. Just me. Do you remember where you were?
That stunning moment captured by news crews, a bullet ricocheted off President Reagan's limousine, striking him in the chest. Another gravely wounded and crippled his press secretary, Jim Brady, and a number of officers. The shooter, John Hinckley, wanted to impress actor Jodie Foster. The jury found him insane. He spent years in a mental institution. He's now free, working in a Virginia antique store. Andy Field.
Wait. Is that an antique store? That's where he's at now? Man, did he miss it with Jodie Foster? Is that wrong? I feel like it's wrong to say, but Reagan survived, so. No. Wrong team. No. It's not going to work. I don't care what you do. No. I'm telling you, Hank. Don't do it. You're not getting it. Think she's going to? I don't think so. It's just spiraled out of control fast. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Oh, the hypocrisy. Talk a little China. Talk a little sports. China. Straight ahead, Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Vaccine passport. Good idea, bad idea?
I think it's a little bit inevitable at this point. I mean, I think a lot of companies are going to be demanding it. If the government doesn't get involved in it, you'll see a lot of private ventures doing it. Countries are going to demand it if Americans want to travel to those places. So I think of it as sort of inevitable. We just got to make sure we do it in a way that's fair to people and protects people's privacy.
It's fair to people. But you don't have a vaccine, but I want to travel. Sorry, you can't go. Well, how's that fair to people? No, it's not. Is it inevitable? Nah. You know what? I think for something like maybe traveling on a ship, and part of the reason is because you know how that, like the norovirus spreads through there so fast. Like nothing can ruin a trip like explosive diarrhea and the other 5,000 on board who have it. So the norovirus spreads really fast. But this is different. Do you remember at the beginning of all the pandemic when there was a bunch of ships just floating around that nobody would let dock because nobody wants it there? So I could see for the cruise lines how that could be something that they would say yes. But outside of that, it's going to be tough. It is. It's going to be tough to enforce something like that, I think, where you have to carry this. Because if that's the case, you could do that with everything. If you're a private company, right? You know, hey, you have to have a vaccine to come in here. Then you're going to get the lawsuits. Are you impending? Why? Even if I have it, why do I have to tell you I have something? Where's my HIP? That's a HIPAA violation.
Can't go to school if your kids aren't vaccinated. Why is this so different?
Private companies can do what they want. Private companies may say, look, I don't want people who are going to come in and infect other people. I don't want my place of business to be a super spreading place. That's very much within their rights to do so. I think you are going to see companies doing those kinds of things. That's part of the reason why you're going to probably see a lot of people who are on the fence jump off the fence and get vaccinated.
And I think you'll find that more and more as we go. And the convenience is there. You'll find that more and more. Once again, we are a nation of convenience. Even myself, right? Because I'm readily admit I'm very much a convenient kind of person. I would rather have got the Johnson & Johnson. I got Moderna. Why? Even at one dose, Moderna, in theory, and so far during real world testing, is after 2 weeks, the one dose, you're at a higher level than Johnson & Johnson. What's the difference? Well, the difference is I don't have to go get a second shot of Johnson & Johnson. I do apparently have to go get a second, shot of Moderna.
But, that kind of talk is what keeps people from getting vaccinated. Big Brother telling you what to do. You shouldn't even be telling people to get the vaccine. This is a little bit of this mission creep on the right about the pandemic is a hoax. You don't really need the mask. You know, the vaccine, which, you know, was Trump's whole call to fame, right? Now he's quiet on it, basically, and they're saying, don't let them push you around. It's not getting us to a better place anytime fast.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think we'll be in a much better position in the next, obviously we're going to be in the next, 3 to 6 months where, hopefully by the end of the summer, a majority of this stuff, we're not even talking about this. We're on to other more insane things like, producer Phil just sent me a playing deck of cards that apparently is gender neutral, ethically diverse. Okay. I didn't even. So there's that. It's called Queeg? Queeg? I don't even know what it's called. Why is the queen card worth less than a king? Because back in the day, I think you'd say a king would be worth more than a queen. Depends if she was the only ruler. Is it a king and queen country? Who do you think had the final say? Probably the king. What if it's just a king or a queen? I don't know. I mean, why? What is, and producer Phil said it. Why is 7 worth more than 6? I don't know. Let's change that. Let's just make it up as we go. It'll be great. I got a straight flush. No, you don't. You got like 20 different. No, it's a flush. No, it's a brand new straight flush. It's new. It's the new way it's created. I identify that as a victory. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. So, Georgia voting law change, the battle begins, and this is a battle for a lot of people, it's about keeping people of color down, and for the people on the right, this is a way of trying to make sure that the elections are extremely above board and secure, and it's then time to get woke and to attack and to threaten. Let's pull the Masters out and let's pull all of these sporting events out. Let's not film movies here anymore. But it's okay if we go to China and do it. That's totally fine. Like, that's great. But here, no.
Georgia is on everyone's mind. In the wake of President Biden's win in Georgia and the flip of both of its Senate seats, on Thursday, the state's Republicans passed a sweeping change to its election law. The bill passed both chambers in just a few hours, and Republican Governor Brian Kemp signed it into law that night. It imposes new voter identification requirements for absentee ballots, empowers state officials to take control over local election boards, limits the use of ballot drop boxes, and it makes it a crime to approach voters in line to give them food and water.
Okay, first, that's within 25 feet, and you can't wear any kind of like Biden or Trump. All right, so it makes it seem like if you're a quarter of a mile away and you're waiting in line and you want to give somebody food and water. I mean, that's within 25 feet of the actual polling place. So let's take a deep breath on some of these things, because people are going to make it out to be like, oh my God, you're not even supposed to wear paraphernalia there. People still do. I mean, there are things that go into this, and people show up and they feed, both sides of the aisle. Even people who are Republicans who show up at some of these things and they have something set up, a block away, or, people are waiting in line. They feed both sides of the aisle and vice versa. So let's just all settle down on some of this stuff.
Republican Governor Kemp said the bill was another step toward ensuring our elections are secure, accessible, and fair. That's not how the other side sees it. President Biden called it un-American. Sick. Stacey Abrams likened it to reinstating Jim Crow. The Georgia bill is the most prominent of many pieces of legislation that Republicans have initiated all across the country. In more than 24 states, Republican-led legislatures are advancing bills in a broad political effort that is the most aggressive attack on the right to vote since the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s.
So I always ask, because the way they make it seem is that, and I like Schmerconister. I think he's a pretty above board, straightforward kind of guy. But I look at this and I think, okay, some of the stuff I don't agree with. The ID thing, I mean, why are we talking about voter ID? Well, Chad, but why? It's like, well, some people can't get, why can't you get an ID? It's like I can't get a bank account. Why can't you get a bank account? There's a story behind why you can't get a bank account. What is that? Why can't you get an ID? As a person over 18, as a human being over 18, you should have a form of ID. Am I correct? Is that something that's weird? It's crazy. Producer Phil, what did you try to do the other day and you had to show your ID? What weird thing happened?
Oh, I had to buy compressed air to clean my computer.
Compressed air to clean his pewter. I like to clean my pewter. Compressed air. Okay, show me your ID. Excuse me? Show me your ID. What? Because what, you think I'm going to go huff this? Is that what the kids are doing with that thing nowadays? But it's a battle that brings attention, which usually brings what? Money.
The people who were complaining about us getting rid of Signature Match, the Democrats, they sued us last year to get rid of Signature Match. They're trying to have it both ways. They bought Jim Crow 2.0, the website, weeks and weeks ago. No matter what Georgia passed, they were going to say, Georgia passes voter suppression, insert whatever they passed here. Both sides are guilty of this. What I'm getting really tired of is both sides, Republicans, Democrats, President Trump, and in this case, President Biden, not treating the American people like they're grown-ups and telling the truth about all of this stuff.
Yeah, which is something we want to hear. Gabriel Sterling talking about this. Because remember what I say, it is about the issue. The issue. It's not about solving the issue. It's just about the issue. It's like, well, people of color are disproportionately hurt because of IDs. Why? It goes back to why. Explain to me why. Why can't you get an ID? Why? If it's something that's that important. Remember, elections don't sneak up on us, right? We're not calling for an election to be held next week. Elections don't sneak up on. We know exactly when there are. Why can't you have an ID? Some of this other stuff is as absurd. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it just shows you, though, how you take something and you run with it.
There are things in this bill that I wouldn't have written this way. The problem we have is both sides weaponizing the outcome of elections and election administration, which makes both sides, the far left and the far right, not trust the outcomes of elections, period.
Yeah, well, that was the choice because nobody loses. Nobody loses. It was always stolen from you. There are bad optics. But then when you look down, you're like, okay, well, I get that. Like, so I'm 20 feet away from a building and you're not going to give me water. Okay, maybe, that's, if I'm 100 feet away, you can. But 25?
I mean, the things we're getting sued over right now are very minor. It's about the water, which is, I realize that's a bad optics thing. But the reality of it is we've had a law for decades that said you can't campaign within 150 feet of the polling location. People are using that food and water to get around that. And unfortunately, they had to say, we're going to make a bright line to make it easy for the sheriffs to enforce and election administrators to enforce. Look, I get it. It doesn't look great.
It doesn't look great because you're only hearing a portion of it. No, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to wear paraphernalia there, even if you're voting. You're not supposed to do a lot of things that we gloss over. But handing out food and water? Yeah, but look at it realistically. You're handing out food and water. Who you voting for? I understand the optics aren't great, but are we looking for the truth or are we looking for the optics? That's what I'm always curious about. And then, of course, it's always about race because everything is. We were talking about Captain Underpants, right? Okay, I wrote a book, and now it's passive racism. You didn't even know about it. He didn't even know what that was until last week when Change.org wanted him to change a book that's 10 or 11 years old.
It's just frustrating because this isn't about racist suppression of votes. On the other side is no matter what the Republicans pass. And like I said, I wouldn't have written this bill this way. I think a 4-week runoff is too short for election administration purposes, but I think it's better than what we had. It's always a mixed bag in an omnibus bill. But this bill itself is not a voter suppression bill. They lost confidence because they were lied to. Yes, I get that. And when you ask most of the elected representatives who are Republicans, they know that the election wasn't stolen. But they have to do something because they're people. And this is how representative democracy works oftentimes. And what they do here is mainly responsible election administration changes.
Yeah. Look, we want safety when it comes to our elections. Everybody should want that. At the same time, can some groups go too far? Can some push back? Do some forget the past when they were suing for something, and then when it's their, when all of a sudden the shoe's on that other foot, then they're going in the other direction? That's the world that we live in. Remember, so much of it is BS. Let's remember who built a lot of that wall that Trump wanted originally was Obama, and the Democrats vote for it. But then when Trump comes in, they flip-flop. Hey, we want signature verification. You guys are suing us to change the law. And then when we say we're going to do it, you're like, no, you shouldn't. These are the things. It's about the issue. It's never about a solution. And that's the frustrating thing. And then they look at people and say, well, these people, they don't know how to use the internet. Like, remember that like 2 or 3 weeks ago? Biden's like, wow, black people and brown people really don't know how to use the internet very well. You're like, well, that's not insulting. And on the other side of things, it's like, it's always about, well, if somebody can't get an ID, it's always supposed to be some African-American man or woman who can't get an ID, which is a bunch of crap. And insulting. Man. And now it's like, well, we can't go to Georgia. Hey, let's boycott Georgia. By the way, we're going to China next week to film a movie. There's all kinds of stuff going on over there. Super above board. Woke. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. MyPillow, 2-for-1 towel sets. So you buy one towel set, 6 towels, huge, big towels, like amazing towels. The hand towels, the wash rags, all of those things. The best around. 6-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty, made in the USA, which is amazing. I know what you're thinking, Chad. The MyPillow. Look, I love the products. That's all I'm here. I'm here talking about the products. Products are amazing. The pillows I love. My mattress topper is amazing. You get free shipping right now. Go to MyPillow.com. Use that promo code Benson. Get you 2 for 1. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
The Battle of Wuhan. So funny that did it escape? Did it not escape? How'd the coronavirus go from point A to point B? And we had, Jamie Metzler on last week who said, he and several other colleagues who are virologists and, biologists and some who work in the animal world, some who work in the human world, and the combination of everything, and scientists from around the globe raised serious issues with what went on, with Wuhan. And, it's so funny how people are just like, even yesterday, was it Redfield came out and said, look, I believe it came from this. The New York Times was like, he's full of it. He's nuts. Even the Washington Post came out and said, no, you know what? No, you've got to listen. Right? This is, you have to. How dare you dismiss it as if, and that has to do with so much with Trump, is you're dismissing something because, because if, God forbid, that the mainstream establishment media got a hold of something where the narrative is, look, China screwed up big time and Trump was right in a lot of this. Maybe the way he handled it was poor, but that, there was a lot of lying going on at the beginning of this. That would be a loss for them. And what do we know about ourselves? We don't want to lose. And if we're wrong, it's hard for us to admit we're sorry. So you wouldn't want that. But it's just so funny to watch the battle. So many people are protecting China because you know what? The narrative in your mind would be, well, if it was true and it got out of a lab, which, by the way, Politico's got a great article, 2018, even before that, 2017. Diplomats, not just American, from around the globe, were saying there's issue here. This place is poorly guarded, if you will, from both the inside and the outside. And on top of that, they are doing things here that are very controversial, some of which is with coronaviruses. But it's unfathomable to think that would happen. It's amazing. It's so amazing. Derek Chauvin trial going on. Day 2 winding, down throughout the day. And as they just continue to go through this, America is watching. And some of the stuff today has been extremely powerful. But one of the things that they were talking about is the fact that, hey, Derek Chauvin and the police were worried about the bystanders, that he was distracted. That's why it went on the way it did.
Yes, there were other bystanders on the side.
Did you hear any of them threatening the safety of the police officers?
No, I did not.
And at some point, did you help, in fact, restrain some of those individuals?
Correct.
That right there is Matthew Frank, prosecutor, and Donald Williams, who is probably the most important witness, at least until we get to the point where we have the medical examiners from both sides, the county, and then the one that is brought in from the Floyd family. So, interesting. The world is watching that for sure. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Have a blessed, wonderful day. Go get yourself a taco, and we will do it again tomorrow. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.